The evening was unusually quiet in West Hollywood. The setting sun poured golden light across the narrow street outside Anna Lewis's small apartment. For once she felt thankful for the silence. She had been working long hours at the design studio and peace was a rare treasure. She dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and sighed as though she had been holding her breath all week. For a brief moment, it felt good to just exist without deadlines or obligations. But then the sharp ring of the doorbell split the silence. Anna froze. She had always hated unexpected visits. None of her close friends ever arrived unannounced, so whoever it wasn't someone she trusted. The bell rang again, longer this time, dragging her forward with cautious steps. She pressed her eye to the peephole and her breath caught. Jason Carter. It had been years since Anna had seen him. Years since she forced herself to lock every memory of him in a place she never opened. And now here he stood, older, weary, holding a massive bouquet of red roses that nearly covered his face. His jawline was softer, touched with fatigue, but his crooked smile hadn't changed. "Anna," he called softly through the door. "Please open up. I just want to talk." Her instinct screamed to step back, hide in the kitchen and wait him out. But Jason was relentless. The bell rang again, loud and demanding. She imagined her neighbors peeking out, charmed by whatever story he told them. Fiancé, lover's quarrel, a romance to be forgiven. Disgust tightened her stomach. With one sharp motion, Anna unlocked the door and yanked it open. "What do you want?" Jason's grin faltered for a second, then returned like a mask sliding back into place. He shoved the roses toward her, nearly forcing them into her hands, and stepped inside without waiting for permission. The thick scent of roses filled the room, cloying and suffocating. "Look at you," he murmured as if no time had passed. "You look incredible." Anna placed the bouquet on the counter with a thud. Her voice was cold, firmer than she intended. "You shouldn't be here, Jason. You made your choice years ago." For the first time his expression cracked, a flicker of regret seeping through. "Anna, don't be like that. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing." She laughed sharply, the bitterness cutting the air. "You didn't know? You left me for Sophia Blake. Don't stand here pretending it was anything else." Jason's shoulders sagged. "It wasn't just me," he said quietly. "My parents pushed me. They said marrying Sophia was the only way forward. You know how fragile my mother's health was back then. If I had gone against them, it would have broken her. My father would have disowned me. What was I supposed to do?" Anna's eyes narrowed, her arms folding tight across her chest. "So, you want me to forgive you because your family made you betray me? You think I can forget how you humiliated me, tossed me aside like I was nothing?" Jason's lips parted, but no words came. Silence filled the space between them, broken only by the faint hum of traffic outside. Finally he sighed, his voice low. "Maybe I don't deserve forgiveness. But I had to see you again. Just once." Anna's arms stayed crossed, her body rigid. "You've seen me. Now leave." Jason turned toward the door but paused. From behind his back he lifted a sleek black briefcase. It gleamed under the kitchen light, expensive and heavy. "Before I go," he said softly, "I need a favor." Anna frowned. "What now?" He held the case out. "It's just documents. Work papers. I can't carry it right now. I've got too many errands. Can you hold it for me? Just for a few days?" Every instinct in Anna screamed no. She didn't want anything of his in her home, not even a trace. "Why can't you leave it with a friend? Or put it in storage?" Jason's voice cracked with urgency. "I don't have anyone else here. Please, Anna. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." Anna stared at the briefcase and felt a cold warning rise in her chest. "No," she said at first, steady and flat. Jason flinched. "Please," he whispered. "Just a few days. I'll be back before the weekend." She studied his face for a lie. He looked thinner than she remembered, eyes rimmed with sleepless nights, mouth tight with worry. Against her better judgment she exhaled. "Fine. But I'm not responsible for it. I won't open it. I won't move it. You pick it up yourself." Relief washed over him so fast it made her uneasy. "Thank you," he said, setting the case beside the door like a loyal dog. "I'll come back soon." He stepped out into the fading light. "Goodbye, Anna." She closed the door and leaned her forehead against the wood. The apartment felt different. like a stranger had walked through and left his shadow behind. She looked at the case once, then turned away. "It's nothing," she told herself. "Just a box with paper." But deep down she knew she had invited trouble across her threshold and told it to sit still. Days turned into weeks. Weeks slid toward months. Jason never returned. He didn't text. He didn't call. It was as if Los Angeles swallowed him whole. The roses he brought wilted and died in a glass of stale water. She dropped them into the trash with a grim face and washed the vase twice. Only the briefcase remained, quiet, stubborn, heavy with meaning she refused to touch. Work kept her busy. The design studio took on a big hospitality project, and Anna lived on coffee, mock-ups and midnight edits. When she came home, she pushed the case deeper against the wall with her foot and told herself it didn't matter. One Saturday, she dragged a storage tub from her closet and simply slid the case behind winter coats. Out of sight, out of mind. Or so she pretended. Even with the door shut, she felt its presence like a humming wire. She told herself not to be dramatic. "It's just metal and leather," she muttered. "Jason will come for it." But every calendar page that flipped made that promise feel thinner, and the quiet inside her apartment grew crowded with questions she wouldn't ask. Autumn crept in soft and cool. On a breezy Sunday, Anna opened the windows and turned up old soul music. She dusted shelves, sorted old photos, folded sweaters into neat lines. The cleaning felt like ordering her life, proof she could control something. In the back of the closet, her hand brushed smooth leather. She froze. She pulled the briefcase into the light and stared. The latches were sleek and seamless. No dial. No keyhole she could see. He pressed one clasp, then the other. Nothing. She pressed harder until her fingers ached. Still nothing. She sat back on her heels and considered the most ordinary choice. Toss it in the dumpster behind the building and be done. But that would be a choice too, a choice with a trail. What if there were documents with her address? What if it held something that would lead strangers back to her door? She pictured walking into a police station, setting the case on a desk and explaining. She pictured suspicion tightening around her like a rope. "Don't be ridiculous," she told herself, sliding the case beneath coats again. But when she went to bed that night, the picture of those locked latches kept flickering behind her eyelids. A crisp November morning took her downtown for a client meeting near the old theaters. Afterward, she stopped at a small cafe by Pershing Square. As she waited for a latte, she recognized a woman from years ago. Nina, a publicist who used to orbit the same parties where Jason and Sophia Blake smiled for cameras. "Nina," Anna said. "Have you heard from Jason Carter lately?" Nina's eyes sharpened. She lowered her voice. "You didn't know?" A cold knot formed in Anna's stomach. "No what?" "He's dead," Nina whispered. "Got mixed up with the wrong people. Money schemes, dangerous men. It ended bad." The room seemed to tilt. "And Sophia?" Anna managed. Nina shrugged. "She ran. Sold the house, married some investor from Europe, parked her mother in a nursing home, disappeared." The hiss of the espresso machine sounded far away. Anna thanked her, stepped outside and stood blinking in the bright sun, as if light could burn away the words she had just heard. The past wasn't coming back for its property. But danger might still remember where it was stored. The next day, a restless conscience pulled her to the nursing home Nina mentioned. The building was clean but smelled faintly of antiseptic and boiled vegetables. A television murmured game shows to residents who only half-watched. A nurse pointed her to a window seat where an older woman sat, narrow shoulders in a pale cardigan, Mrs. Blake, Sophia's mother. Anna introduced herself softly. The woman studied her with cloudy eyes and a quivering mouth. "You were the other one," she murmured. "Before my daughter." Anna didn't deny it. Mrs. Blake spoke in a tired, papery voice. Jason had reached too high and too fast. He'd taken money that didn't belong to him. Those men did not forgive. "They found him," she whispered. "That's what happens when you betray trust in their world." About Sophia, the woman only sighed. "She put me here and left. I suppose she has a life without me now." There was no anger in it, only a kind of emptiness that made Anna's chest ache. When she left, the afternoon shadows were long. She had wanted clarity. She walked away with a warning. Back in her apartment, Anna stood in front of the closet like someone facing a locked gate and hearing footsteps beyond it. She dragged the briefcase into the living room. "Enough," she said aloud as if courage could be spoken into being. She remembered the rotary tool she'd bought on a sale rack and never used. Her hands shook as she fitted a cutting disc and plugged it in. When she squeezed the trigger, the machine screamed to life. Sparks jumped as the blade chewed at polished metal. The smell of scorched steel filled the room. She kept expecting a neighbor to bang on her door. No one did. The first latch gave with a stubborn snap. The second surrendered slower, whining before it cracked. Silence returned like a waterfall cut off. Anna killed the power, chest heaving, palms slick. For a long moment she couldn't lift the lid. Then she forced a breath, dug her fingers under the edge and opened the case. Money. Not stacks, bricks. Row after row of banded hundreds, packed so tightly the paper looked like lumber. Anna's vision swam. She touched one bundle and felt the rough fibers scrape her fingertips. Ew. Terrifyingly real. She jerked her hand back as if the cash were a stove. "Oh God," she whispered. It clicked all at once. Jason's thin face, his urgency, Nina's hushed voice, Mrs. Blake's warning. This wasn't a favor. It was a fuse. Her mind sprinted in circles. Call the police. Walk into a station with a hacked briefcase and a dead man's money months after the fact? Keep it. The thought curdled. Money like this had owners. Owners who counted in bullets, not bank statements. Burn it. Ridiculous. There was too much, and flames had a way of telling stories to the wrong people. She shut the lid with shaking hands and slid the case to the corner like she could push the danger out of the room. It stayed, a crouching thing with patient eyes. Sleep left her. Every squeal of brakes on the street made her sit up. Every hallway knock sent cold through her ribs. She checked the deadbolt twice, then a third time. The next evening, desperation drove her to the neighborhood market for milk and bread. The parking lot glowed under flat white lamps. As she reached for her phone, a blur ripped it from her hand. "Hey," she gasped. A tall man in a leather jacket sprinted after the thief, caught him in seconds, twisted and sent the phone clattering loose. The kid vanished between cars. The man returned, breathless, and held the phone out. "Yours." "Yes," she said, voice shaking. "Thank you." He grinned, easy and warm. "Hold tighter next time. This city taxes the careless." He tilted his head toward the corner cafe. "You look like you could use 5 calm minutes. Coffee on me." Anna hesitated. Something in his steady gaze slowed the panic in her chest. "All right." They took the window table at the tiny cafe, lights strung over the counter like small moons. He ordered too much, 2 coffees, pastries, a pressed sandwich cut diagonally. "Didn't know what you liked," he said. "I guessed." She smiled despite herself. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." He offered his hand. "Chris Walker." "Anna," she said, feeling the warmth of his palm. The talk started with small things. Work, neighborhoods, music they pretended not to love, and slid into the honest kind. A failed marriage on his side, a hollowed-out engagement on hers, the way the city made you feel alone even when you were surrounded. Chris listened like listening was a skill, not a pause before speaking. He laughed easily, asked careful questions, remembered tiny details. When he walked her home and stopped at the steps, he didn't push for more. "I'd like to see you again if you'd let me." Her walls had mortar lines as thick as stone, but something soft cracked. She nodded. "Okay." He smiled, stepped back, and left her with a good night that felt like a promise rather than a claim. Weeks smoothed into a gentle routine. Chris texted good mornings, showed up with coffee on bad ones, jump-started her car when the battery died, and learned the name of her favorite bakery without asking twice. Dinners, oceanside walks, clumsy pasta, movies on the couch. He never pushed past what she offered, and somehow that invited her to offer more. Little by little, Anna laughed from the chest again. One evening, after overcooked spaghetti and shared stories, Chris held up a small red box and went down on one knee. "Anna Lewis," he said, voice steady, "you've changed my life. I don't want another day to pass without you knowing how much I love you. Will you marry me?" Tears blurred her vision. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, trembling, "Yes." The ring caught the light and turned it into a star. Later, when the apartment was quiet, her gaze slid to the closet door. Beneath coats and a folded blanket sat a hacked briefcase stuffed with somebody's future. She pressed her palm to the ring and felt joy crush against fear. "Tomorrow," she promised herself. "Tomorrow I tell him everything." The word tomorrow rang like a bell, and kept ringing long after she turned out the lights. The next evening after work, Anna drove home rehearsing how she would tell Chris everything. She twisted the ring on her finger, whispering possible openings. "Chris, there's something I've been hiding." The words sounded thin, desperate. But she promised herself she would speak them. When she reached her door, her key stuck in the lock. She shoved it harder and the door finally gave way. The sight stopped her cold. The apartment was wrecked. Cushions torn, drawers dumped, shelves stripped bare. Lamps lay crooked, shades dented. It didn't look like a robbery. It looked like a storm with intention. Her pulse thundered. She dropped her bag and sprinted to the closet. She shoved coats aside, boxes spilling. The space gaped empty. The briefcase was gone. For a moment she couldn't breathe. Her mind scrambled. Maybe she had moved it? Maybe she'd hidden it elsewhere? But no. It was gone. Panic clawed at her chest as she staggered back to the living room. That was when she saw it. A sheet of paper lying neatly on the coffee table amid the chaos. Everything else was tossed and broken, but the note sat untouched, deliberate. She picked it up with trembling hands. The handwriting was unmistakable. "Chris. My dearest Anna, forgive me for the deception. The money was never yours to keep. It belonged to people who would never leave you in peace. I returned it. You are safe now. Believe me when I say I love you. I never lied about that. I'll explain everything soon. Yours always, Chris." The paper slipped from her fingers. Anna staggered backward until her knees hit the couch. She pressed her hands to her mouth to keep from crying out. Safe? He thought she was safe? He had stolen the one secret she had carried for months. The briefcase, the haunting weight, and decided for her without a word, without a choice. Her mind spiraled. Had he been working for them all along? Every smile, every kiss, every warm laugh replayed in her head, now twisted. The night at the cafe, his hand on hers, his proposal on bent knee. All of it tainted. A sob tore from her throat. She pulled the ring from her finger but couldn't throw it. It sat heavy in her palm, glittering like mockery. Alone in the wreckage, Anna felt something inside her fracture. This betrayal cut deeper than Jason's. 3 days passed in silence. She went to work like a ghost, returned to the wrecked apartment and sat staring at the letter Chris had left. Her phone buzzed with friends' messages but she ignored them. Every time she glanced at the note, her chest squeezed with grief and rage. On the 4th evening, just as she was preparing to lock the door against the world, the bell rang. Her body went rigid. She stared at the door, dread and longing battling inside her. "Anna," came the voice she both hated and craved. "Chris." Her hands clenched into fists. Against her better judgment, she opened the door. He stood unshaven, weary, eyes shadowed with exhaustion. "Please," he said softly. "Just let me explain." She stepped aside in silence, her eyes hard. He glanced at the wreckage, the overturned lamp, the drawers still hanging open. "I know what you think," he began. "That I used you. That every word, every moment was an act to find the money. But that's not the truth." Anna's laugh was brittle. "Isn't it? You walked into my life, made me believe again, and then stole the one thing that's haunted me for months. And you left me a letter like that made it better." His voice cracked. "I had no choice. When I first met you, it wasn't by chance. I was sent. I owed people money. Dangerous people. They told me if I didn't track down Jason's briefcase, I was finished. First, yes, I agreed. But the moment I saw you, everything changed." Anna's throat tightened. "You expect me to believe that? That our meeting was coincidence?" He shook his head. "No. That night at the supermarket, it was staged. I asked a guy I knew to snatch your phone so I could swoop in. I hated myself even then. But when I saw the fear in your eyes, I swear something broke. It wasn't a job anymore. You weren't a job." His words hung heavy, sharp as glass. Her chest ached. He took a step closer. "I wanted to tell you. So many times. But how could I? How could I admit I came into your life under false pretenses, that if you stood in their way, they'd kill you?" His voice cracked. "I thought if I just kept you safe, maybe you'd never have to know." Her eyes burned with tears. "Safe? You call this safe? My apartment torn apart, my life shredded. Because of you. Because of that damn case." His voice grew desperate. "I gave it back. Every cent. I made them swear to leave you alone. I told them you never touched it. I walked away with nothing. No payoff, no reward. Just you. That's all I want, you. She shook her head trembling. You betrayed me. You lied from the very beginning. Chris's shoulders sagged. I did. And I'll regret it forever. But everything after was real. Every touch. Every word. Every moment. His eyes glistened. I love you, Anna. I would risk anything to prove it. She pressed herself against the wall, heart pounding like a drum. Fury and longing battled inside her chest until she couldn't tell them apart. I don't know if I can believe you. I don't know if I can forgive you. His face was raw, stripped of charm. Then I'll wait. Days, weeks, years. I'll wait for you to decide. Just don't shut the door completely. Silence stretched between them, thick and painful. Anna turned her face away. Go, Chris. I need time. I need space. Right now I can't. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. He stepped toward the door, pausing only once. If you ever call, I'll come, he whispered. Then he left. The door closed with a hollow click. Anna sank onto the couch, burying her face in her hands. Her heart waged a brutal war, love and betrayal tangled like barbed wire. She sat in the quiet until dawn threatened the horizon. As light crept into the room, she whispered the cruelest truth. Sometimes the deepest wounds are carved not by enemies, but by those who claim to love us. The words stung, but they were real. Hours later she rose, staring at the ring on her finger. She twisted it until her skin burned. She hadn't trusted Chris with the briefcase, had hidden it instead, and maybe her silence had paved part of this road. That realization cut as deep as his lies. It wasn't just him, she whispered. It was me too. The night stretched long and restless. When Anna finally drifted to the window, she saw Chris outside on the street, hunched under a flickering streetlight, hands buried in his jacket. He looked up as if sensing her but didn't come back. Instead he turned and walked slowly down the block until the city swallowed him. Her heart twisted, relief, grief, and the tiniest seed of hope all knotted together. She let the curtain fall. The briefcase was gone. Jason was gone. Chris was gone. But the consequences remained. As dawn painted the sky pale, she whispered into the stillness. Love can't survive lies. Not his. Not mine. The words trembled, fragile but true. She didn't know if she'd ever see Chris again. She didn't know if forgiveness was possible. What she did know was this. If love ever had a chance, it needed honesty and nothing less. The following week blurred into routine, but nothing felt solid. Anna moved through her office tasks with automatic motions, smiling at coworkers without hearing her own voice. Every evening she returned to an apartment that still looked half-broken, like her trust. She picked up Chris's letter once, twice, but always dropped it back onto the table. When she stared at it too long, her chest tightened until breathing hurt. Nights stretched longest. Sirens wailing outside, shadows shifting in the hallway, her mind replaying his words. I love you. I was sent. You weren't a job. She curled beneath her blankets whispering, then why does it feel like I was? On Friday a knock startled her. She pressed her eye to the peephole, her heart hammering. Not Chris. A neighbor stood there holding a small package. This was left by mistake. Your name's on it. She thanked him and closed the door. The box was plain, no return label. She opened it slowly, half expecting something sinister. Inside lay a small book, a journal bound in worn leather. A note slipped out. Anna, this is the only truth I can give you. If you never read it, I'll understand. If you do, you'll know everything. Chris. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the journal. She sat at the kitchen table, the room silent except for her shallow breathing. The journal opened stiffly, its pages filled with Chris's handwriting. At first she skimmed. Debts owed, names crossed out, dates of meetings. Then came the part that slowed her. Entries about her. The first time he saw her. The guilt he felt staging the theft of her phone. The way her smile disarmed him at the cafe. He wrote of nights he wanted to confess but feared losing her, of plans he abandoned just to protect her. One line made her hands shake. She deserves more than a man like me, but I don't know how to walk away. Anna pressed her hand against the page as tears blurred the ink. By the time she closed the journal, dawn light spilled across her table. She hadn't slept, but something inside had shifted. The betrayal still burned, but now it carried a complicated weight. Love and lies intertwined on every page, tangled so tightly she couldn't separate them. She whispered to herself, It was real, and it wasn't. That morning she slipped the journal into a drawer and left for work, carrying the ache like an unhealed scar. Weeks passed and Chris didn't return. Anna wondered if he waited somewhere, keeping his promise to give her time. She found herself scanning faces in cafes, glancing at every tall man in a leather jacket. But he was nowhere. Slowly her apartment came back to order. Lamps fixed, shelves reset, cushions fluffed into place. Outwardly life looked normal again. Inwardly she carried a bruise no one could see. One chilly evening, Anna walked to the pier, waves crashing below like restless memories. She sat on a bench, wrapping her coat tight, watching couples stroll by hand in hand. A seagull screeched overhead. For the first time in months she whispered his name out loud. Chris. The sound disappeared into the ocean wind. She wasn't calling him. She wasn't forgiving him. She was simply letting the name exist without breaking her. That was enough for now. Back in her apartment she opened the drawer and touched the journal again. She didn't reread it. He didn't need to. She only whispered, maybe someday. Her reflection in the window showed a woman with tired eyes but a spine straight. She had survived Jason's betrayal. She had survived the weight of a dangerous secret. She had survived Chris's deception. And she was still here. The city outside pulsed with indifferent life, neon lights flickering, car horns echoing down crowded streets. Anna leaned against the window, her hand resting on the ring she had tucked away but never thrown out. Forgiveness wasn't hers to give yet. Trust wasn't ready to return. But honesty, that was the lesson burned deep into her heart. Love born from lies was doomed to collapse. If she ever opened her heart again, it would be with nothing hidden, nothing left in the shadows of closets or words unspoken. With that thought she closed the curtains, whispered to the empty room, no more secrets, and let the night carry her into an uncertain but honest tomorrow. Thanks you for watching, and please remember to tell us where you are watching from today. Hit the like button, comment and subscribe to this channel for more of this.